I'm Fairhope Unitarian Fellowship. Welcome to everybody this morning. And thank you so much to that porch folks singing 7. Your pronunciation of Hawaiian was just excellent. Right on the money. Well, as you know, tomorrow is Memorial Day. But did you know that 2 days ago it was National Poppy Day? National Poppy Day, like flower. Yeah. And as you know, poppies are associated with Memorial Day. I don't know if I'm stepping on anybody's toes that's going to do the reading today. I was going to talk a little bit, just mention a little bit about that history that maybe most folks don't know about. I certainly didn't until I went to my pocket library, looked up Wikipedia, and did a little reading. So apparently there was a lieutenant colonel by the name of John McCrae, a Canadian physician, who wrote a poem in 1915, which was a year after Germany invaded Belgium, called In Flanders Fields. It opens with a description of the field. Poppies growing among the soldiers' graves in Flanders. That might have been the end of it, except for a white MCA worker in 1918 who apparently was impressed by the poem, decided to wear a silk poppy to overseas conference and handed some out to others. I guess that caught on because by 1920, the American Legion adopted it as its official symbol of remembrance. And lobbied Congress to designate May 27 as National Poppy Day. It is just another way to honor the fallen and support the living, and remind the nation of the sacrifices made by our veterans. So that's a little bit of history. We'll begin our morning with child sliding by Melissa Image.
Okay, I would like to light chalice this morning. I'm sorry. I would like to light the chalice this morning in memory of and love for the 19 children and 2 teachers who died in Uvalde, Texas. And for their families and friends. May we never forget.
Thank you, Melissa. A few announcements. We are in need of cookies and snacks for our Sunday gatherings. We also need volunteers to help us move some of the food that you folks have volunteered donated to the food, the little free pantry. And I see we have some muscle out there that might be able to schlep some of those heavy goods to the outside cabinet for us. We really appreciate it. Also, I need to announce that our financials are below the projected budget targets so far this year. The newsletter is in the foyer. The electronic version of that will come out on June 2nd. Belmont, do we have any guests to this today?
Good morning, everybody. We've got a nice lot of guests this morning, which is great. We have Melissa Vaughan and Marissa Vaughan from Foley. Would you like to give us a wave, Marissa and Melissa? And we have Brinkley Hutchins and Jimbo Powers, who are friends of Sarah's from this way. And we have Charles Supple and Deborah Little, who recently moved here from Montgomery, new members in Montgomery, and they recently moved to Westminster Village up in Spanish Walk. So welcome all of you, and hope you all stay for coffee and conversation, get to know you after the meeting. Thank you.
And thank you all for coming tonight. It's nice to see some new faces.
Carl,
Yes, yes.
can I make a quick announcement? I'm sorry. I forgot.
Sure, you betcha.
Carl, I usually run over it. Mr. and Carl's here before this all gets started. I wanted to remind all of you, if you see me running around looking purely candid this week, it's because it is very soon, June 1st, and Pride Month is almost upon us, and we are getting ready to celebrate Pride in Fairhope down at the park by the pier on June 18th. And the fellowship will be having a table, having a presence there to celebrate our status as, Sarah, help me remember what our official term is. A welcoming congregation, which is an official status we sought and earned many years ago from the Unitarian University Association. Anyone who is interested in helping out with Color Fairhope with Pride, donating items to our silent auction, showing up and sweating and volunteering and helping with tents, come find me and forgive me for running around with a crazy person. Anyone who wants to help with the fellowship's tent and the fellowship's presence at Pride, seek out Sarah, who is spearheading that. Thank you so much. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Sarah. Did you say there was June 18th?
June 18th from 1 to 5 p.m.
Yeah, this is down in the park.
Yes.
Okay, good.
There are flyers in the lobby.
Are there any other great announcements from congregation? Okay. Is Allison also here? Allison, are you ready to do this? Thank you.
Hi everyone. Before I go to the reading today, I just want to say thank you for the kindness and love you guys all showed to my community last week as we were helping my grandmother transition to the next level. She passed Thursday night and she's no longer suffering. It was pretty peaceful, and I really felt her love. So thank you guys for that. And my mom is here today. She didn't want to recognize, but she felt it too. That makes her. Now I'm going to do the reading to go on with Sarah's part today. I'm reading from Zen Flesh, Zen Bones, a collection of Zen and free Zen writings compiled by Paul Rex. This is a pretty old book, and even this one is an old edition of it, so you probably know this book already. I have 3 short Zen stories to share. The first one, In the Hands of Destiny. A great Japanese warrior named Nobunaga decided to attack the enemy, although he had only 1/10 the number of men the opposition commanded. He knew that he would win, but his soldiers were in doubt. On the way, he stopped at a Shinto shrine and told his men, "After I visit the shrine, I will toss a coin. If heads comes, we will win. If tails, we will lose. Destiny holds us in her hand." Nobunaga entered the shrine and offered a silent prayer. He came forth and tossed a coin. Heads appeared. His soldiers were so eager to fight that they won their battle easily. "No one can change the hand of destiny," his attendant told him after the battle. "Indeed not," said Nobunaga, showing a coin which had been doubled with heads facing either way. Great waves. In the early days of the Meiji era, there was a well-known wrestler called Onami, Great Waves. Onami was immensely strong and knew the art of wrestling. In his private bouts, he defeated even his teacher, but in public, he was so bashful that his own pupils threw him. Onami felt he should go to a Zen master for help. Hakuju, a wandering teacher, was stopping in a little temple nearby, so Onami went to see him and told him of his trouble. Great Waves is your name, the teacher advised. So stay in this temple tonight. Imagine that you are those billows. You are no longer a wrestler who is afraid. You are those huge waves, sweeping everything before them, swallowing all in their path. Do this, and you will be the greatest wrestler in the land. The teacher retired. Onami sat in meditation, trying to imagine himself as waves. He thought of many different things. Then gradually he turned more and more to the feeling of the waves. As the night advanced, the waves became larger and larger. They swept away the flowers in their vases. Even the Buddha in the shrine was inundated. Before dawn, the temple was nothing but the ebb and flow of an immense sea. In the morning, the teacher found Onami meditating, a faint smile on his face. He patted the wrestler's shoulder. Now nothing can disturb you, he said. You are those waves. You will sweep everything before you. The same day, Onami entered the wrestling contest and won. After that, no one in Japan was able to defeat him. Time to die. Ikkyu, the Zen master, was very clever, even as a boy. His teacher had a precious teacup, a rare antique. Ikkyu happened to break this cup and was greatly perplexed. Hearing the footsteps of his teacher, he held the pieces of the cup behind him. When the master appeared, Ikkyu asked, "Why do people have to die?" "This is natural," explained the older man. "Everything has to die and has just so long to live." Ikkyu, producing the shattered cup, added, "It was time for your cup to die."
Thank you, Allison. And we are sorry for the loss of the important elder in your family. We'll have a moment of silence, followed by music and collection by our seven. And the speaker will be introduced by Sarah.
I didn't bring any notes with me this morning to introduce Sarah Bogdanovich, or as I think we established last week, my fish must be in 2 seconds. You can all go read in Jamie's letter about all of her accomplishments and accolades. But when I think of Sarah, I think of her devotion to community. Whether it is the community of the people she works with, providing mental health services and support, the community of this fellowship that she has devoted so much time and energy to making shine in as greatly as it does. Or just the community of Fairhope and her friends and her family. And her topic today speaks very strongly to me. Anxiety is a birthright in my family, and it's continuing now my family. But when I seek out advice on anxiety, when I think about the advice for how to manage anxiety, and I imagine hearing it from someone who's sitting with a cup of tea, serene, with no stresses on their shoulder, and not diving into things. I think, yeah, that I don't want to stop being involved in the world and stop trying to make a difference. That is the trade-off I have to make to not be able to navigate my anxiety. I don't know that it's worth it. But to hear information about navigating anxiety from someone like Sarah, someone who cares passionately and never stops working to make the world a better place, well, I'm here for it. Not yet.
I'm feeling anxiety about it. Now I'm showing. I'm showing an 8.
Can you hear me? Ooh. By the way, I love my Google Pin. It looks like a bug. It's actually a mic. Okay, can you guys all hear me?
It might be better here, Sarah.
What's that?
Yeah, on the inside of your shirt might be best.
Closer. Be closer. All right. That's not going to make anybody think you're sending a bug right into their face. All right. All right. Thank you, Sarah, for that lovely introduction. I'm going to bring my cheat sheets because I rarely do what I set out to do. And today I'm going to try to do that. Anybody who's ever been in my therapy office will know that we start out one place, we usually end up somewhere else.
I don't think we're getting you.
You don't get me?
Yeah, when you do that.
Huh?
Only when you do that.
Okay, I'm going to speak really loud too. Hopefully we can get it together. Okay. Get down.
Right up.
Okay. I'm going to just put it right here. That's what it looks like my cleavage is above. Okay, great. Okay, so my name is Sarah Bogdanovich. I am a clinical social worker. That means that I studied as a social worker first, which means I worked with helping the most vulnerable in our society and trained on how to do that. Then, after I did that, I trained in a clinical setting for 2 years to learn to support the most vulnerable of our society in their mental health work. As far as I'm concerned, we're all the most vulnerable in our society, but there's definitely gradations. And so my work often addresses the work of mental health, but also the way that our society interacts with that, right? So if someone tells me a story about how they're not making ends meet financially, they are discriminated against in various ways, right? We're not just going to focus on, like, well, I don't really know why you feel anxious about that, right? We need to also do some advocacy and some social justice work. And that's one of the things that brought me to social work, is that we have a mandate both to support the individual and also to work for systemic change, right? So for me, those two things go together. Today we're going to talk about managing anxiety, because this is what I hear the most about in my work, and I wanted to tell more people at once. So you'll get my spiel that all my clients get. So anxiety, as you guys probably know, it's one of the range of emotions that we experience as humans, right? So we experience happiness and sadness and nervousness or anxiety, fear, right? Anxiety is specific. We use it to kind of describe a bunch of different things. And from my point of view, here's a basic spectrum of that. So the top here is your psychological experience of that. Like, you might be kind of excited, but you might also experience that as you go on to being more nervous or worried, right? You might have racing thoughts, or you might have ruminations where the same thought over and over again. You might be afraid or in panic mode, really feeling like you're physically under threat. Okay. The physical manifestations of that can be that you feel kind of fidgety or antsy, right? We all know people that fidget with things, move around, have trouble sitting still. Your breath will get short as you get to feeling more anxious, and that short breath is just kind of in and out, not as relaxed, right? You may feel nauseous. Lots of people feel nauseous and they feel anxious because we have a lot of neurons and neuroreceptors in our stomach and our digestive system, right? There's a reason for that, but that's one of the reasons that we start to feel nauseous, okay? I'll tell you about my journey in terms of anxiety. Involved a lot of nausea, and I went to the stomach doctor for a long time. And I wish somebody had just told me that I should maybe go to a therapist. That would have saved me a long time. It would have been a painful, maybe, communication to get, but it would have saved me a lot of time. People also experience, they start to feel hot or they sweat, right? Their heart will start racing. A lot of people go to the emergency room because they feel like they're having a heart attack when they're having an anxiety attack or a panic attack, okay? So I would rather somebody tell me the first time, right? Maybe that's anxiety, then I have to keep going back to the emergency room. And you might also feel like trembling. Some people even begin to feel numbness or tingling in their hands when their body when they get into the panic response. It's kind of like the fight or flight, okay? So that's kind of what we're talking about. But you see, anxiety might spread this whole So what one person's describing as anxiety might just be they're nervous about something, right? Like they have to stand up in front of a bunch of people. Sounds professional, right? It may be that they're worried about something, right? Or it might be that they're like panicked as though their life is in danger. Okay, so this is a real spectrum. And what tends to happen, I tell my clients, is that sometimes we get in like a superhighway situation where the brain starts to feel this, our body starts to feel this, and we go straight here. Okay, which is one of the things that happened to me. We get some superhighways in the brain that are not really all that helpful. All right, so possible reasons for anxiety, and for me this is really important. A lot of times I have people come in and they say, oh, I just have anxiety, it runs in my family, right? There's just anxiety. But I don't rarely hear people say, oh, well, I just have hunger, it runs in my family. We all experience it daily. It's a problem, it's a real problem. We have to eat, and sometimes people get grumpy if they don't. You know, it's weird, it's a thing. It's hereditary, right? We just have to deal with it, right? Anxiety is a similar thing. You also aren't like, oh, well, my family's really happy. We're just happy. We're just happy people, you know? We're happy. I mean, it's a burden that we bear, you know? We're just happy all the time, right? Because it's a negative feeling emotion, right? And so it feels like we are sort of doomed to feel that way. And I'll talk to you about why that is in a second. However, anxiety is really a symptom, right? Just like hunger. When we feel hunger, we eat, we no longer feel hungry, right? We can get a little bit weird about our hunger, right? Where sometimes we're actually thirsty, right? We read research now, it's like, we're not really hungry, we're actually thirsty. Or, you know, you're only hungry for sugar because there's some things in your gut. Like, so even our hunger can get a little bit weird, right? It can get a little mixed up. And our anxiety is the same way. So if you come into my office and you want me to treat you for anxiety, but you have a medical condition that causes anxiety that you're not treating, what good does my treating you for anxiety do to treat the medical condition? Right? That doesn't, so you want to make sure. So I have ADHD. That was one of those things told to me, saved me a lot of time. Could have been told to me at 10 rather than at 35, but that's okay. I'm thankful to the lady that told me. So ADHD and autism, sometimes we have neurodiversity can cause anxiety in various situations, right? You might be nervous about being in places. There's some of this heredity, certainly it is hereditary or learned maybe in our families, right? There's some interplay. We have anxious parents, we may end up being anxious children, right? It could be a medical condition. My grandmother at one point, when she was near passing, she had gone into the hospital. Well, they had not gotten all of her medications correct from home, and so she experienced intense anxiety there for a few days until we got her medications correct. But it's not, she had never necessarily experienced anxiety in her life, but she was fearful and trying to get out of the bed, right? Because her medications weren't well adjusted, okay? I didn't ask her about, we talked, but I didn't ask her why she wasn't controlling her anxiety. Chronic pain, of course, right? Chronic pain is very upsetting, right? It leads to depression, it can also lead to anxiety. Various hormonal changes, especially for women. Certain times of the month, you might be more likely to feel anxiety, right? And then there's just basic life events, like sometimes things like what happened this week. Knowledge of what happened this week. Knowledge that that's happened before. Right? So it's not necessarily that there aren't very real, tangible things. Traumas that have occurred in childhood especially, but also as adults, right? They cause us to be more likely to feel anxious, to feel worried about our safety. Caffeine and stimulants, this is one. People come in, they're like, oh, I was, all I do is drink caffeine and monster drinks, and I'm real worried about stuff. Yeah, I get that, right? You got a busy life, you got stuff to do, there's always something going on, and you have more energy, and then you do the thing, and then you're supposed to be like, now sleep, brain, and your brain's like, you're like, it's always at night, I can't sleep. Oh yeah, I think I know. Okay. And social situations, right? Social situations give people a lot of anxiety, especially after a pandemic. I have a lot of clients that are struggling with that, like learning how to re-socialize with people. And then of course we get these waves of COVID that are coming back. So it's like, is it ever okay? And then how? Right? relearn some of that stuff. And then certainly prolonged stress. So keeping the brain in this place of stressfulness for longer than it's meant to be. All right, this is going to seem real simple, y'all, because I am not a neurologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I am a social worker. And my job is to simplify things so that everybody can understand them. Some of my clients can speak English even, and so I got to be able to explain this to them regardless of their ability to understand it. So I'm going to simplify it. Here's the parts of your brain, okay? You have the lizard, he's down here, this is your brain stem. I describe it with my hand when I do it with my kids. This is your brain stem, all right? This is your dog brain. I brought my dog to show you. Okay, this is kind of your limbic system. This is underneath the back of your brain. You would use your thumb to describe it. And then there's the owl. The owl's up top, sitting on the tree up above the lizard and the dog. Okay, we use our fists. We're going to explain that to really anybody, but I say kids, but y'all do it, don't. Okay. We'll go through the 3 parts. Oh, this is Larry. This is Larry. I don't know if y'all can see him. So Larry is a green and only lizard. Larry lived at our house. I met Larry. He was our roommate, my husband and I, at our house in Hawaii. During the month after I found out I was pregnant with my first child, he's quite tall then. And Larry lived near our cookbooks in the corner of our kitchen. And he showed up one day around New Year's, right when we found out we were pregnant, and that's pretty much what Larry did. Every now and then we'd see him different places. Like to sit in the sun, and he's probably trying to get out, honestly, but he couldn't figure it out. And we liked having him there. So we kind of would hang out, right? And during this time, I was just starting to have pretty intense feelings of anxiety on a regular basis, right? During this time, we had moved to Hawaii. We were very separated from our family. Jeff was gone quite a lot. My husband Jeff was gone with the Coast Guard and unexpectedly gone. And he was a new officer and he was stressed out. I was stressed out. I'm supposed to be cooking for like an adult, and I'm supposed to be taking care of myself like an adult, right? And eating and drinking and exercise, all the things you're supposed to do. And what I really probably was doing was like sitting on the couch, like Larry, being pretty worried that something was coming to get me, right? I didn't know what it was, but I was pretty sure, right? And I did a lot of laying in the sun. That's kind of a lot like Larry, but I was pretty worried. I was starting to get pretty worried. I was having more anxiety than was helpful at the time. And it was problematic. I was starting to avoid situations, right? I was not sleeping well. I was waking up in the middle of the night, not being able to sleep. And of course, then we had our son, and that was really a survival situation. Anyone who's had an infant who has colic knows that that is a survival situation if there ever was one. No one's sleeping. Everyone is mad at everyone else, the baby included. And you're all just trying to survive, and that's kind of what Larry was doing, right? Using his lizard brain to survive. This lizard brain, our brain stem, if you believe in evolution, was the first part of our brain to develop. It's kind of reptilian, right? It's very solitary. I never saw any of Larry's friends. Just him, right? I mean, I'm sure somebody had to get together for there to be a Larry, but pretty much it was just Larry, just hanging out by himself. He seemed content, you know? He went on vacation to the living room, came back. He didn't mind. Our lizard brain, our brainstem controls basic functions that we don't think about. Okay, so just chilling. I didn't think about Larry that much unless I saw him, right? And I would notice he was breathing, and he had his heart was probably beating. He blinked, so that was kind of cool. It's cool to see him blinking. I'm sure he ate bugs. He digested them. He definitely could hear stuff, right? His hearing, and our brains are hearing is really key. That's one of the reasons you can sleep, right? Because your hearing stays on. You don't have to think about that while you sleep. because you know you're gonna hear something. It's something bad's happening, right? And it's able to recognize a response to pain, right? Our brain stems know when we're feeling pain in our body, okay? Again, basic. This is Poppy, which is interesting. We're here on Memorial Day. This is Poppy, and she's in the room right now. I'll let her roam around unless there's somebody that doesn't want to talk to her, but she can roam around a bit. We got Poppy a few years after Larry, and we didn't actually keep Larry. He was self-contained. He went away at some point. We got Poppy at a time when I was now starting to experience a lot of anxiety, toward the point of panic, to the point at which I would wake up in the middle of the night already in panic mode, already nauseous, sweating, hot, freaking out, without any warning, right? I'm just sleeping, now I'm panic, right? Interestingly, before we got Poppy, in the 2 years or 3 years before we got Poppy, I had lost my grandparents, to whom I was very close, but they were elderly, and there was time for them to pass. They passed peacefully. I lost my father unexpectedly, who passed from a massive heart attack with no warning. Come to find out, there was a warning, but he didn't share that information. So I found out in Publix with my 2 infant kids pushing them around and collapsed on the floor, and then had to explain to someone that they needed to put my frozen food back because I had to go. Yeah. So I had quite a lot of things going on at that point. We'd also moved at that point with children across the country from Hawaii to Florida, and then from Florida to California. No family. I had a lot of friends to help us with the children, right? Just working hard, working up the ranks, right? He was a good officer, but he was also gone a lot. And I was real smart, but real overwhelmed, right? Very smart, but not prepared for any of this. So we moved to California, and I thought, what we need is a dog. Because if I keep looking at my family, I'm gonna go crazy, okay? Because as far as I can tell, every time I looked at my family, I'd be like, let's fix this. What do we need to fix about you? I look in the mirror, what do I need to fix about me, right? So we got a dog. And I just came home with a dog. I shouldn't say we got a dog. I went to a service station near Fresno, California, and bought a dog out of the back of the pickup truck. And came home and said, here's our dog. All right. So this is Poppy. She's a very loyal girl. She, this is the background. She's a golden doodle. We got very lucky with her. But this is what she likes to do. Don't look out the window. All day long. Okay? The only time she's not looking out the window, when she's eating, we're petting her maybe. She pretty much looks out the window all the time. This is her, this is in Virginia. When we moved to Virginia, this is here in Fairhope, looking out the window. Dutifully waiting for us, right? Or something. Waiting for something. I will say, one night I thought I would get a dog and be like, in the middle of the night when I'm up and throwing up because I'm so anxious, the dog will be there with me. And she's like, oh, I sense that you need me and it will be so great. And I have to call her to me occasionally, be like, hello, anyone? And she's just on her back. She's like, you're good, you're fine. Okay. So when we lived in Virginia, I was still experiencing quite a bit of anxiety, but I was starting to figure it out. Just little baby steps. I was diagnosed with ADHD when we lived in Virginia, right? That explained a lot, like a lot. And I was starting to think about my career, because I've been helping the children while we moved around, right? I had done disaster response, which makes sense in a minute. So, I was starting to think, I really want another career. Maybe I'll go back to school. Maybe I'll teach people about how their brains work a little bit, right? Because I did that. Let's talk about that. So, this is what I learned about your dog brain. Let's do this part of your brain. So underneath. This is your emotional center. Okay? It's your mammal brain. It's what makes us mammals and not reptiles. Poppy is all about her pack. right? Too social, right? Gotta be together with us, gotta look out for us, she's got a protector, she also needs to know, she needs to tell us when something's going wrong, right? But she also wants to have her pack, and then also know who's not in the pack, which is pretty much all the squirrels in the neighborhood are not in the pack. She's very vigilant and protective, right? All about family. If Larry had a baby, Larry's baby would be fending for itself. Larry would be like, you got this, all right? Talking to his ex-sack or whatever, be like, see you later, right? Poppy has babies, she's gonna care for her young, right? She's gonna make sure that they're okay. She's gonna grab them by the scruff and move them out of the way, right? Gonna growl at them when they do something wrong. This is also our flight freezer fawn center too, right? They're gonna make sure that she's looking out all the time for threats, all right? And interestingly, she has access to eyes. So Larry's back there, Larry can't see anything. Larry's on our brain stem, he doesn't have access to the eyes, but he's ready. If we need the heart rate to go up, we gotta run, Larry's there for us, right? Our brain stem's ready, but it can't see anything, right? It's just feels pain, but it can't see any threats. Poppy, luckily, the dog brain, it can see the threats coming. It's looking out the window all the time. Any threats? Ready, right? As soon as Poppy starts barking, right, then the lizard brain is like, let's do this, right? Got heart rate up, ready to go, okay? Now, unfortunately, Poppy doesn't really know a lot, and she doesn't know always the difference in the things that are threats and are not threats. So then we moved here to Fairhope, and this is the owl that lives right outside our home in the tree in our neighborhood. It doesn't have a name, I'm sorry. Trying to think of a cool name, but it doesn't really have a name. It's the owl. We don't know if it's male or female because you have to see them together and then maybe compare size. So it's owl. It's a non-binary owl. Okay. We don't need to gender the owl. Okay. But it's always this owl. This is a barred owl. It raises its young in a hole in the tree near our house. Looks out for them. The owl, interestingly, we often see, we have a little pond, sometimes they'll be in there washing their face or getting a drink, right? Sometimes we see the owl on the power line above the street, right? Sitting, looking for something, right? Something delicious. And without fail, around the owl will be a whole lot of very angry birds. Very, very nervous birds. And these birds cause such a stir. That's how we know it's there, because the owl stands still. Sits still. While around it, there is literally bird chaos happening because the mockingbird and the brown thrasher they're so upset that the owl's about to eat their babies, and they're coming at it, and they're even the mockingbird's so bold, right? Comes in, like, grabs its back and flies off. What does the owl do? Not. And the owl looks like a badass. Just sits there. Every now and then the owl gets its feathers back. Not threatened by that mockingbird. Okay. The owl is very much like our prefrontal cortex, is the part of our brains that are here in the front. It's the part of our brain that makes us human. Okay. Poppy can't do algebra. Poppy is not self-aware. Just as likely to look in the mirror and think that that's another dog. Okay? Our owl brains, our prefrontal cortexes are our cognitive control, right? This is where we do all of our complex problem solving. This is what makes us human, right? This is what makes us us. The ability to reason, and to have language, to be conscious of ourselves, to be able to reflect on ourselves and how we have done something. Poppy doesn't feel bad. Poppy's not going to second guess anything she's done today. She's not going to leave today and be like, I think I wagged too much. I think maybe, I don't know, I went up to them, but I didn't really get a good signal from them. Maybe I shouldn't have gone up to them. I don't know. Right? She's just like nailed it. I nailed it. She can eat something weird and throw up on the floor and just be like, that was what I was supposed to do, right? That needed to happen, right? So, but our owl brain will, right? And we have language. Gosh, we have language to talk about stuff. Probably doesn't know what words mean. He knows what I say in certain contexts and what to do, right? Because of the tone of my voice. But if I try to, and we know that because if I try to explain to her about algebra, she would be like, great, this is so great. When do I get my treat? Right? Nothing changes. All right? So let's go back to the parts of the brain. So we talked about how this occurred because of evolution, right? We had the lizard was first, and then we changed to became mammals, and then we became humans. And that's awesome. But our brains are controlled if we do not teach them otherwise. They are controlled from the bottom up. So, this little lizard right here, your brainstem, when I touch something hot on the stove, the brainstem, like I have this, it doesn't even go any further than me. I'm gonna move that hand away, because I know what pain feels like. And I don't want to waste the time going all the way up and talking with the owl and trying to explain to the dog about the hot stove, and it's a whole thing, just move the hand, okay? Move the hand, right? That's why we can do it instantaneously. It doesn't need to go all the way up. Right? So the same is true though of the dog. So if you have the metaphor of the owl sitting on a branch above the dog and the dog starts barking, okay? The dog will make the owl leave. So if I let Poppy out and she starts barking, the owl will fly over because the owl is not fooling with this. Right? The owl is like, I'm so much better. Right? The other birds, fine. The dog comes out, it's like, well, you scared everything away anyway, I'm out. I'll go somewhere else where there's no dog, right? So when our dog starts barking, the owl, we lose access to this part of our brain, okay? Our problem solving center. And that makes sense, right? Because if you've ever gotten really angry, or really anything, happy, sad, anything, the kinds of ideas you have are ludicrous, right? And it's just a brain. I mean, it's not that smart, right? I mean, it's just doing its best, okay? Your brain's job is to keep you alive and safe. It's not to make you happy. It's not to help you feel calm. It's just to keep you alive. So, good job, y'all. Good job. Okay? It's doing it. But it doesn't care if you feel good about that. It's just keeping you alive, right? So as soon as this dog starts barking, right? It's like, we don't have time for problem solving. We can't be problem solving right now, right? Something needs to happen. We gotta do, we gotta run, or we gotta fight, or we gotta just take this. And a lot of times, this is why we think that we have an anxiety problem. Because the dog barks. But Poppy barks. Okay? She's a good dog, because she barks sometimes. Is everything she barks at a problem? No, sometimes it's like a cat coming out of the sewer drain. It's just a cat, right? But a lot of times what we do is we equate all of this that something's wrong, right? We listen to that dog, maybe a little too much, okay? So what we're going to try to do is to learn to have our brain work top down a little bit more, okay? And flip that a little bit more. We've all known families, y'all might be one, where the dog runs the show in the house, right? It's chaos in the house, right? The dog's just like running around, oh my God, everything's awful, is it awful? Everything's bad, everyone's yelling at the dog, right? That's the solution, screaming at the dog. Dog's like, I don't know where else for you, everything's bad. Okay, so we want to focus on strengthening the owl so the owl can control the rest of the crew here, right? Relaxing the dog so the dog calms down. Isn't quite so upset. And then we also have to take care of the basics, and we forget this a lot of the time. Okay, so let me show you how to do it. So, you have to take care of this lizard back here. It's just a lizard. Larry doesn't. Okay? We have to anticipate and meet our physical needs regularly. So that your brainstem and body can count on you to meet your own needs. Right? The brain is just an organ. Okay, it's just an organ, just like your lungs or your stomach. Right? So, just like if we eat something bad, we eat something, let's say we get food poisoning. I don't know anybody who's like, I'm so embarrassed. I'm so embarrassed I got nauseous because it was E. coli in my food. It was bad. I'm so embarrassed. I can't even tell anybody what happened, right? Like, no, this food was bad, right? Get something in your lungs that's not supposed to be there, right? Something goes down the wrong pipe, you cough. You're coughing, you're like, wrong pipe, it was down the wrong pipe, I gotta get it out, right? And yet, when we have responses like anxiety to a dysregulated brain, we shame ourselves about that being our fault. Our brain's fault. Our brain doesn't hurt. Other people can handle it when they watch all this awfulness, watch the news. I can't. I should be able to handle it. Maybe you can't handle it. Like you might be allergic to something. Some people can handle it, some people can't. Okay. So you have to meet your physical needs. So sleep and eat and hydrate yourself and rest. Right? If you don't do these things, your brain will not function like it should. If you don't do these things, your brain will not function like it should. So don't say, I never take care of myself. If I'm really anxious, don't know what to do about it. Do these things. Start here first. Okay? Eat a balanced diet and eat a good, use a good multivitamin so that your brain has access to the things that it needs, right? To do what it needs to do. And spend time outside so you can convert some of that into vitamin D and other things that we need to feel good. Research is very clear about spending time outside. Even if you just sit outside. Sit outside on your phone. Right? That's all what we want to do anymore anyway. Be on our phone sometimes, so go do it outside. It's fine. Right? And limit the stimulants that you take to the morning. I am a serious coffee drinker, so I get it, but you gotta stop at some point, right? Because you gotta go to sleep. Because that's important for you, right? And you have to prioritize your sleep. I still wake up in the middle of the night. I'm thinking about something I could sit and think about all night long because I'm nervous about it. Even coming here, right? Lots of ideas, what I can do. But I put in an audiobook if I wake up. No earbud. And interestingly, I don't even think I hear the audiobook anymore. As soon as I put the earbud in, my brain's just like, oh, whatever. I'm gonna go to sleep, right? Because I'm committed, so I could think to myself, oh, it's gonna be amazing, all these ideas. I have to do it, I have to stay up, right? But what I know is I'm not better in the morning if I do that. So I say, sorry, all those great ideas. I'm gonna listen to some boring book. Then I go to sleep. Or take a nap, right? Take a nap if you need it. We're so obsessed with keeping going all the time. It's not good for our brains. When we relax the dog, we calm the dog. But here's the thing, so this is the key, I think this is the majority of where we go wrong with anxiety. Because it's the dog that's causing the alert. It's the dog that's barking, right? Saying, everything is awful. There is something wrong outside the window, right? Quick, everybody react, right? One of the things we do though, people that say, I have an anxiety disorder, they immediately start trying to calm the dog down. Right? Come here. Immediately trying to start calming her down. Come girl. Come. Up. Good girl. Up. Thank you. So they start immediately trying to okay, I'm gonna breathe and I'm gonna calm and everything's fine and the dog's still barking. Why? Because you didn't check first to see if anything was going on. If Poppy starts barking, something's outside, and I'm just like, Poppy, stop barking from over here, and she's like, oh, bad guy, outside, okay, things happening, right? I have to check first. She knows I haven't checked, right? She's like, you still didn't come and see Timmy is in the weather, right? You need to come and see, right? If we just start trying to calm Lassie down, or calm Poppy down, they're like, look. So you gotta go look, you gotta go say, hey, oh, sewer cats again, whoa, right? Squirrels, are you kidding me? There's a squirrel in our front yard? Unacceptable, right? Then we can start to calm her down, right? Because the feelings that we have, this is especially true for women, the feelings that we have that something is wrong, torment, and protection. If you feel like something is wrong in a certain situation, you should honor that first and check. Because there might be something wrong in that situation. And you should not tell yourself, I have an anxiety problem, so let me try to calm down. Because it may not be time to calm down. And you and your dog and your owl and your lizard brain might need to get the heck out of there. Right? But if you check and you see that really it was just that the water was dripping in the faucet at night, you're okay. The world is a mess, but you're okay. Right? Then you need to start to calm the dog. Okay? And do the things that we would do with Poppy. What would we do with Poppy? Come here, girl. The Poppy got trained as a therapy dog a few years back because she's obviously the best. She did get her summertime haircut, as you can see. She's sleek and ready to run at the slightest notice of bad things happening, or squirrels or whatever. So what would we do? What if Poppy was barking? What would I do to calm her down? Give her a walk. Right? Dogs love a walk. Right? What else would I do? Let her outside when she needs to go to the bathroom. Maybe I would give her a treat. Right? I've got treats in my pocket. Right? Go have a snack. Go treat yourself with a snack. Right? Don't be treating yourself all the time to like ice cream, but go have a nice little snack. Right? Smell something. Man, dogs love to smell something, right? Go get something that smells good in your house, right? Cuddle up. Oh man, cuddling up. Remember when we were little and we cuddled up? We used to cuddle up all the time. You see puppies in the middle of a group? Oh, that is so satisfying stuff, looking at puppies. Create, just have a puppy pile. Pillows, get all in there, right? And go and find your pack. So this is the other thing. When we get isolated, when we get anxious, we often isolate ourselves. And dogs don't do that. Poppy, she's like, oh, they're scared. And she will, like all other dogs, come and get all, they climb on top of all the other dogs. And they get like right in the middle and wedge themselves in. So go find your pack. Call them up. Right? Say, I need you. I'm coming over. Okay? Go get with your pack. We often sit and say, oh, well, my pack didn't call me today, so I guess I'm not well. No, your pack didn't know that you needed them because your pack is there. And your pack may not be your family, right? Your pack may not be what other people's packs look like, right? But everybody's got one, and if you don't have one, start finding one. Finding one that'll let you call them up and be like, oh, I'm coming in. I'm getting on the sofa in between everybody over here, okay? Then you have to ask for pets. Poppy does not wander around. She doesn't stand up here and be like, everyone come pet me, please. No, she goes and jams her nose right into your lap, like, oh, excuse me, I would like that, please. Right? You don't have to call people up and say, I need pets. I have a rough day, be nice, please. I need nice words, please. Thank you. Okay? Say something nice to yourself. About yourself. Poppy doesn't know it. I mean, I could teach her about algebra in a nice voice, and she'd be like, this is the best. Right? Say something kind to yourself. This will pass. It'll get better. And then worse, and then it'll get better. Watch something funny. This is one of my favorite things. Watch something funny. Go to the doctor. Go to the vet. Go to the therapist. Okay? Go and get support if you feel like maybe this is happening more often than it should. Okay? And take your medication if you need it, right? And for goodness gracious, pick a different window. Right? Poppy looks out the same window all the time. If I'm looking out the same window all the time and it's just badness just all the time, and I'm just looking out the window, what's gonna happen? It's all good. My only input, right? And yet, we like to throw all the windows open and with the worst things. How many tabs do you have open? News and all the stuff. And we're like, why am I worried? I don't know. It's awful, right? There's a window. There's a window that doesn't look like that. There's a window in your life that's beautiful, that's fulfilling, that's inspiring. Pick that window for a while. Yes, I know the other stuff exists, right? But just take a break and pick a different one. where there's not so many squirrels. And this is the part that we forget. So often, what happens is we have an anxiety moment or an anxiety attack, or we experience anxiety, and then we do the things that we're supposed to do, and the anxiety passes, and hoorah, and then we're like, oh, that doesn't happen again, right? But we forget that we need to be practicing so that we can control that better and better and better when it occurs, right? Instead of just saying like, oh, cat's gone, I'm like, great, everything's fine, right? We need to be learning to say, let's close the windows. In fact, let's schedule to close the windows at a certain time, because this anxiety is coming every day at the same time. How about I just like schedule the windows to close, and I'm gonna look out this window today, okay? But this is really your owl brain that's doing that. That's your problem-solving brain. It doesn't work when you're feeling anxious. It's really cut off. And yet when we're anxious, we're like really inspired and motivated to make it work. Like, I gotta find a solution to this. As soon as it's done, though, we start to think, oh, kind of problem solved, did it, right? That's the very time that you need to be practicing this, because that's when you have access to the problem solving brain, okay? The things that we use to strengthen the owl are to go to therapy, take your medication, antidepressant medications, or other, properly prescribed medications can change people's lives. Changed my life. Allows me to be the person that I am most of the time, right? Rather than the person that gets hijacked and is fearful. Okay. Mindfulness and meditation are versions of strengthening your brain. Mindfulness is about a diffuse awareness, okay? Meditation is more focused, right? Both of them work well. Find one that works for you and practice, 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 practice all the time. Just like dandruff, you use the shampoo, you don't have it. Practice, and you won't have anxiety as much. You gotta keep practicing, because that's why you don't have anxiety as much. Okay? I use a script that I learned of self-hypnosis. Hypnosis is really just about a deep sense of relaxation. Okay? I learned a script when I lived in Florida that has really helped to change my life. I only have to now say the first part of it. If I said it right now, I'd be like, okay? Practice. And control your input. Control the input that you put into your brain. Your brain is not that smart, right? Just like your stomach, it's just like, I grind up the things, I send them through, right? It's your stomach. But we put all this pressure on our brains to like magically know, like, is this a horror movie? Is this real life? It doesn't know. It doesn't know the difference, all right? If something bad happens while you eat a banana, it's just as likely to be afraid of a banana. Like, it doesn't know exactly, okay? So control what you put into it. I can't tell you how many clients I have. I love to watch horror movies. I never get scared when I watch them. I have a lot of trouble sleeping. I mean, I'm not kidding. And you're like, really? Don't watch those anymore. But I'm not scared when I'm watching them. Like, okay, but those images are in there. Your brain only gets what you put in it, right? Your stomach doesn't eat by itself, right? It only has what you put in it. Put in better stuff. And be very, very protective of what you put in. Very protective. Because that's all that's in there. And if we have trauma as children or as adults, we can't choose that. That's in there. And our life, our world that we live in is full of enough. So be careful what you put in. Because it needs to counteract what's already in there in our world. And then frankly, learn to just ignore the dog. Be like, thank you, appreciate it. Have you ever been in somebody's house, right? The dog starts barking. I mean, you can't stop everything you're doing because the dog's barking, right? Sometimes you're like, I'm shouting over the dog. It's fine, it's all fine. It's fine, right? Just ignore it. Just know that sometimes it's going to be kind of, you're going to feel kind of weird. You're not going to be content and grounded and all the things you want to be. That's okay. That's just how it is that day, right? Sometimes you got a cold, you just by yourself. Keep going. And be consistent. Don't be trying like 50 different things and being like, these aren't working. Do one thing. Bobby knows one way to do things, right? When I tell her to sit, it's one way. Just do that way over and over and over again. She didn't get it at first either. She didn't know. Why is it? Keep doing it. You'll get it. And breathing. So I know I've run out of time. have 1 minute, so here we go. Breathing. Breathing is the one activity that is controlled by the lizard, your lizard brain, and goes through your dog brain, that your owl brain can control. And it is the way that we talk to the rest of our body. So we have people that come in, I have clients that come in and they're like, I don't know why I'm so, I don't even know why I care about that, because I don't even care, because here's this logical reason why I don't care about that, right? Well, the dog cares very much about that. So I don't really care what the owl cares about at the moment, because your dog is running the show, okay? And your dog doesn't speak English. Hi, girl. Come here. So, Mommy, there's squirrels, and they're fine. They're really not taking anything from you. And you're going to be okay, even when there's squirrels. That's not, those aren't, you don't even eat nuts, so you're fine. Okay? Okay, I need you to not care about that. Puppy. Squirrels. Whoa, did you see her ears go up? You say the word squirrels? But I just told you you don't need to care about that. Oh, see. Now she's going over there. She doesn't ever listen. I told her that she doesn't even care about that. Right? She doesn't speak our language, right? What she speaks is breathing. And our lizard speaks breathing. And the way that we breathe when we want to calm down is we breathe in. And we make sure, there's a lot of things you look up online about breathing, that you breathe out as long and as slow as you can. When you see track stars going up and they're about to run, how do they breathe? They breathe in deep, like, and then they breathe out, how? Fast. In, deep, out, fast. And what that's doing is talking to their body, we'll get into this another time, about, it's telling them stuff about their belly. And I'm going to need to run away from it very fast. Right? And they do. They run away very fast because they control their breath. Right? Because they got the lizard's like, I don't know where we're going, but I've got it all. The heart rate's up, right? And the dog is like, I guess we're being chased, I don't know. And right, they get it, go. So if you want to do the opposite of that, which is to not feel like we're being chased, you take a breath, you hold it, breathe out as long and as slowly. The first one will not be as long, but do that at least 5 times. For me, the number 5 is meaningful, so I breathe in for 5 seconds. I hold it for 5 seconds. I breathe out for 10 seconds, but I never make it to 10 until the 7th breath, because my body's all tense. Okay? And that's it, and then you just don't have anything. All right. Any questions? Anyone have a lot of time?
Questions? All right, I'm sure there are questions out there.
That's fine. Happy to answer them.
We've got to run out of time, but please join us in coffee and snacks afterward. I got a feeling we did a lot of questions there. I'd like to close today with the caution of Unitarian principle to affirm and promote the respect for acceptance of one another and encourage them to spiritual growth in the congregation. I want to thank you all for joining us today, including our 4-legged puppy, which I forgot to introduce earlier. I'm sorry about that, Sarah. My bad. My bad. But anyway, please join us after this for a little more conversation. Thank you.